We're going to be doing a full body dumbbell workout. We're going to be focusing especially on the muscles in the arm, so that bicep and tricep muscle, but doing a little bit for everything, working the upper body and lower body with a little bit of core at the end. So if that sounds good to you, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more content like this. So I'm on a goal to try and get more muscles, especially in the arms. If you are looking to do that with me, this is gonna be a follow along workout. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the muscles in the bicep. We're gonna be warming them up. So for that, we're gonna need to use a bench. Now I like to set this about 60 degrees, maybe about 50 actually. So this is going to be an incline dumbbell curl. Now I like this over a standard curl because we're not only stretching at the elbow for the bicep, but also up here at the shoulder. So you're gonna grab set of dumbbells, and then the important thing on this, so I want my shoulders back, and then I'm gonna bring my hands down to the front. So I'm not going downwards with them where they sort of just hang. I want them sort of down. Down forward. So that way there's tension on the bicep the entire time. So this gets more of that two joint stretch or high tension in that bicep muscle. So you're getting the full length of the bicep. It actually is what's called a bi-articulating joint, where it's, or I'm sorry, not bi-articulating muscle. It's called a bi-articulating muscle where it goes across two joints, both the shoulder and the elbow. So for this, I'm doing 10 reps just to get blood flow into the muscle. I like to do what's called a specific warm-up, where we're warming up the muscle using the exercise that we're going to do with the lighter weight. So that just worked the bicep. Now we're gonna work the tricep and shoulder. And we're gonna do that with an overhead press. So bringing your hands to the outside of your shoulders, pushing up towards the ceiling, and then back down to the outside of your shoulders. Now, keeping those hands wide, don't let them come together. So you want them right over the top of your shoulder, so you're keeping tension on that muscle the whole time. So this is working the back of the arm. I'm bending that elbow, straightening that elbow, and I'm keeping my hands wide. Now, if you need to, if it's uncomfortable on your shoulder, you can bring your elbows a little bit in to take a little bit of that pressure off the inside of your shoulder. It's more of that, it's called the scaption plane, where you're at a 45-degree angle. I like to go wide because I don't have a small space in my shoulder, so I can actually do this without any discomfort. If it is uncomfortable for you though, it can just be fine to bring it a little bit forward till you find the right angle. So now, moving to a bit of a heavier weight. Now moving to a heavier weight, we're going to do the bicep curl on our first working set. So that was our warm-up set. Now we're gonna go into a working set. So I'm gonna grab a heavier weight where I wanna pick something that's challenging at about 10 reps. So the muscle should feel tired. Let me just double check that this is all working. Okay. So for the bicep curl, I want to make sure that the weight is heavy enough that it's challenging around 10 reps. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly 10. Just if you can only do 1 or 2 reps, that's too heavy. And if you can do tons of reps over 30, that's too light. So I'm pushing my back flat against the bench, going out towards the front, and then back up. Really focusing on bending my elbow back up. I'm trying for about 11 reps. I should feel that tension in the bicep though. I used to not like this exercise as much. I had to work up to it because I was feeling too much tension in my tendon down at my elbow. So if you have discomfort in the inside of your elbow, what I'd like to do, or what I'd recommend doing, is doing less weight and higher reps to build up that tendon, because that muscle actually attaches in right in here to that tendon, and doing higher reps can get you a stronger tendon, build up that tendon, while still challenging the muscle. But if you go really high weight, it can put a lot of pressure on that tendon. Sometimes it hasn't quite grown strong enough to handle that weight, even though the muscle can. So I'd recommend, if you do have that happen, try a little lower weight and a little bit higher reps. You'll still build muscle just the same. Turns out, studies show that it doesn't matter if you do high weight or high reps, as long as you are going close to muscle failure. So now we're doing overhead press, hands wide, shoulder width, pushing up towards the ceiling. I'm just going until I feel tired in that muscle. Now, you're only as strong as your weakest link or the weakest muscle in that exercise. For me, I get tired out in my deltoid first on that, so that shoulder muscle. Tricep feels some of that, but I'm gonna be doing more exercises for the tricep later on to get the most I can out of that muscle as well. So if you're looking for a workout, if you are wanting to join me in building muscle and join me on that journey, hit that subscribe button. I host these live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I do all my workouts on stream because I'm not doing something different than what I'm telling you to do. So if you're interested in applying science-based lifting to your workout, hit that subscribe button and be here live. If you have any questions, I'd love to help. Or if you have comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them too. This exercise was actually a suggestion I just heard about more recently. So I've been building up to this. It took me a little bit of time to actually get my tendon to feel comfortable on my bicep for this. But now I really like this exercise. It puts a lot of stress though on your bicep, but in a good way. and relax. I find I can feel that all the way up to the shoulder because it's actually stretching that whole length of bicep. Bicep actually attaches all the way up here at that shoulder. So muscles grow when they're under tension. So we're putting extra tension at the top of that shoulder as well as the bottom. That's one of the advantages of doing a decline or on a bench. So you're sort of leaned back. The more lean back you are, the more intense that exercise gets. So doing overhead press, this is set number 2. So I'm aiming for about 4 sets in my arms because I want to build the muscles in my biceps and triceps to have bigger arms. So I'm spending this next period working especially into those muscles. Now I'm still working the other ones, my chest, my back, but I'm spending less time on those. So I'm only doing 2 to 3 sets of those rather than 4+ sets per workout. The more what's called workout volume, the more volume you do, the more number of sets you do for a muscle, the more that muscle grows. So, or I should say, the more volume you do that approaches failure, or approaches muscle failure, where the muscle gets tired. That's the whole thing, is you want the muscle to be tired. We don't want actually the muscle to be completely exhausted. That was something that took me a long time to actually learn, is I was pushing the muscle way too far, where I was going so heavy and difficult on my first set, I was completely exhausted by the beginning. You want to get tired, but not completely exhausted, to where you can repeat those sets. Turns out, it's just like running a race. Imagine if you were running a marathon and the first mile you ran like a sprint. You ran all out and you were completely just out of breath by the second mile. That's no good for running a marathon. Same thing with working out. Say you just went all out on your first set, lifted as heavy as you could, as many reps as you could, but were completely exhausted and couldn't keep on going. You're actually building less muscle overall doing it that way. And that was a thing that, until I read the research on it and started applying it, took me a while to actually realize that I was hurting my growth by going too all out on my first set. Now you want to train challenging. Hang on, I gotta focus. Well, you can see I'm training hard where it's challenging for myself, but you want to go to where you're what's called 1 or 2 reps in reserve. So 1 or 2 RIR. And that means if you really had to, you could lift the weight 1 or 2 more times up and down before completely being exhausted where you had to drop the weight. So aiming for about there where you're about 90% is a good level to shoot for, where you get maximum growth while minimizing fatigue. So less soreness, less recovery time, and better muscle results overall. I know it's counterintuitive of you train a little less hard to get more results, but it's because you are able to train more. And that's the thing, is that little bit less training means you can recover and get to your next workout feeling better, more rested, more recovered, and still able to push just as hard. And that was the thing, I would go so all out that I would miss workouts even. because I was still so sore. Even if I did the workout, I just wouldn't be able to push as hard. Just the muscle was still healing from my last workout. $11. All right. Now, if you're liking these workouts and want to see more, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more content like this, where we're using dumbbells to do a full body workout for muscle building. All right. Is this set 3 or 4? I think this is. Think for a moment. I think this is 3. I'm gonna give it just a second because this is still shaking a little bit. I'm gonna let that relax before going into my next set to give my body a little bit of time to clear out that lactic acid before I go in to the next set. It's okay to take a minute or two between to actually maximize muscle growth. If you're limited on time, it's okay to go one exercise to the next. And what we're doing actually is called supersetting, where we do a pair of exercises together, where we're working the bicep with one exercise and then the tricep with the other exercise. So we're alternating between sides of the muscle to give it more time to recover. But sometimes you need a little bit of extra time between sets, and that's okay to do. It actually probably will grow you more muscle to work that way. All right. Going here, doing that bicep curl, starting at the front of your shoulder, going out towards the front, and then back up. You should feel that stretch all the way up to the top of your shoulder or the front of your shoulder. Now, reclining like this actually means I have pressure all the way through the movement. The further back I recline, the more intense this is going to be. And relax. So if you want a more intense bicep curl, lay further back. Right now I have it set to about 50 degrees. If I wanted to make it more intense, I could put it down to 45. So with the same weight of dumbbell, I can actually add more intensity just by changing that angle. Now, I like to aim for about 10 reps as a starting point for any exercise, and then as I go, I add 1 rep every week or 2. So, if I started with 10 on this, now I'm moving to 11 in a week or 2, and then a week or 2 later, 12. And that's called progressive overload, where I'm constantly trying to challenge that muscle. And relax. All right, so last set of arms. We got 1 more bicep, 1 more tricep, and then we're going to move into the larger muscles of the chest and back, doing more compound movements where we're working a lot of muscles all at once. Sometimes I like to start with compounds and move to isolations. Today we're starting with isolation movements. We're working just one muscle and one muscle, more or less, primarily tricep and bicep, then moving to more combination movements where we're working chest and tricep and anterior deltoid, and then lats, bicep, and traps as a second exercise. Whoa. So, last set of bicep curl. Now, on this one, it might be harder where you can't quite get the same number of reps. That's okay. The muscle's already tired, it should be tired. And so if you can't get to the same number of reps, it's okay. That's called a drop set, where we're actually reducing the number of reps as the sets go on. Also, if you can't get a fourth set, that's okay. Sometimes you need to start at 2 sets or 1 set even, and then build up over time. I would say it's better to try and see how your body does with 1 set. If you're not sore, try 2 sets. And then if you're not sore after that, then you can move to 3 sets. Try it one workout at a time, as opposed to just trying to jump into the deep end, because you have higher risk of injury the more fatigued you are. So want to make sure you're able to handle that, your body is able to handle that level before going on. And last one, 11. Now I'm trying to go to where my elbow is all the way straight, or almost completely straight, to get the maximum tension in that bicep. So if you need to, drop down the weight, but get that full range of motion, because that's going to get you that full length of muscle developed. You can always add weight later. It's kind of funny. A lot of people think, oh, going heavier is better. Really, you want to go as light as you can while still challenging the muscle. Part of why that is because then you have better technique. You're still hitting the muscle just as effectively, because you're going until that close to muscle failure point, and you're reducing your risk of injury. And injury is the #1 way of actually slowing down your progress in the gym. Okay. I need to move this a moment. So now we're going to go into a dumbbell bench press. Now for this, I like the dumbbells better than doing a barbell, because I find I have better range of motion on that dumbbell press movement. So what we're going to do is grab 2 dumbbells. So grabbing 2 dumbbells, I like to start with the dumbbells on my knees, leaning back, kicking them up so they're right over the top of my shoulder. Now from here, hands are going to be wide, about shoulder width, and I'm going to bend my elbows down so that it's all the way down at my chest level, and then back up. I'm going down under control, really opening up that chest, and then straight back up. I don't bring the dumbbells together, I keep them out right over the top of my elbow. So I'm pushing my chest out as I'm going down and then back up. So you should really feel that opening up your chest. You want to go all the way down and all the way up. It's, you're not only getting a good hypertrophy building exercise, but also a great stretch in your chest. A lot of people have a very tight chest muscle. If you ever see people walking around sort of internally rotated where their thumbs are pointed in, their chest can be too tight. And relax. Now we just worked the chest muscle with that. Now we're going to work the lats, which run along your back, all the way from your low back up into your shoulder, as well as the muscles in your traps and some of the bicep as well. So we're gonna do a bent over row. Now what I like to do with the bent over row is lean my hips against a wall, and then from here, I'm gonna hinge forward from my hips. So think about pushing your butt back into the wall and lean forward, keeping your head up, letting your arms hang. So I'm keeping my back straight. I'm not rounding at all with my low back, keeping that chest up, pushing out the back. From here, I'm gonna pull up to my chest and back down. My thumbs are pointed in. This is a pronated bent over row. And that's gonna hit more of the muscles between my shoulder blades. Still hit the lats, still hit the bicep, just a little less. So I'm pulling up to my chest and back down. Now this is just like you would do with a barbell, except I'm doing it with dumbbells instead. I'm pinching my shoulder blades together. And 10. Warming up those lats. So working those lats. So if you're liking this content and want to see more, I host these live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hit that subscribe button to be here live for when we work out together. All right, I start that one with 30 pounds for a warm up. So starting same way where we do the exercise to warm up the muscles we're about to use. Then I add weight to my full working weight, just then start counting sets. All right. So now, same thing, but with heavier weights. This is where I'm starting to count sets. So I'm trying for 11 reps at this weight, keeping good technique. So hands wide, going out to the outside of my chest. So it's right over at the top of my elbow. I'm not bouncing at the bottom. I'm going down, hold for a moment, and then back up. That way I'm not using my chest like a rubber band. So that's what's called plyometric movements, where you go bouncing it like that, and that makes you more at risk of having tearing or injury to that muscle or that joint. It's a lot more force that your body's having to recoil from. And so it's better to go a lighter weight, control that movement, and build up strength over time. So now going to a bent over row, doing a pronated grip bent over row. So hinging at your hips, letting your arms hang, pulling up to the back. Let's step just a little bit forward. I'm actually gonna do it like this. So pulling up to the back and back down, letting them fully hang, pinching the shoulder blades together. And relax. So with these exercises, I'm only doing 2 sets. I'm just trying to maintain that muscle mass in the chest and back. So I do between 2 and 3 sets, especially on days like today. I know I'm more tired, haven't slept as well. So because of that, my recovery is going to be affected. And a lot of people think it's just about exercise. I've actually come to realize that there's sort of 3 big pillars of fitness. One is exercise. Another is sleep. How well you sleep and recover. And the third one is nutrition. And those were the 2 that really messed me up for a long time. I was only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. I was not eating enough protein and not counting my calories. So I was either eating a lot more or a lot less than I should have been. So fixing those things has helped me make more progress. Usually what would happen is when I would eat too little, then there would be a kickback from that, where then I'd eat a lot too much, and it would be in that cycle of eating too much then too little. But the overall net effect was I was gaining weight because it was just not well controlled. And that's when counting calories has really helped me have freedom really in eating, because I know exactly how much I have and how much I need, where I'm getting the food that I need. So I see it more as a freedom than a restriction. And relax. Because for me, I had such a negative view of food. I didn't feel free to eat food. I would be constantly trying to just limit how much I was eating, instead of saying, hey, I can count and know how much I can be free to use and eat right now. And then because of that, eventually my body would crash and I feel so terrible I had to eat. And then I would overeat, and then that's not good for your body to just go from nothing to tons of extra calories, then nothing again. And so, not literally nothing, but too few calories, like under 2,000 calories a day, which for someone who's 6'1", and 200 pounds, that's really too little food. So that's my story anyways. It really gave me freedom to be able to eat effectively at every meal, to start counting calories. So now what I do is I weigh everything and make sure I get protein in every meal. I like to get between 25 and 40 grams of protein in every meal and have 3 to 4 meals a day. Let's see, does the math work on that? Never do math on camera. So minimum 25 grams of protein per meal. And I try and get about 150 grams of protein minimum a day, which for my body weight is pretty accurate. You want 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and I'm about 200 and something pounds. It's about 218, I think. All right, doing our last set of bent over row, and then we'll do some leg exercises. So, bending here, letting your body fully hang, pulling up to your rib cage, keeping your back straight. And relax. All right, so now we're going to work on the muscles in the quads. So for this, I like to do higher reps because I find it's easier on my lower back to do higher reps doing what's called a suitcase squat. So I go for a lighter dumbbell and you hold the dumbbells at your sides like you're holding a briefcase. From here, feet about shoulder width apart, keeping my chest up. So I'm gonna try and point my chest to the front. From here, bending your knees, going down as low as you can, and back up. Now I'm gonna do these until I can't do any more. So I'm in that 1 to 2 RIR, 1 or 2 reps in reserve. Should feel that right here on the front of my quads. Keeping my back straight, so I'm keeping my chest up. Going until I feel that burn in my quads. And relax. Now, if you're liking this workout and want to see more, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more content like this. All right, now we're gonna work the hamstrings in the back of the thigh. So what I want you to do is stand against a wall, take one step, small step towards the front, and what you're gonna do from here, slight bend in the knees. Then keeping that knee from bending anymore, just a slight bend. You're gonna keep your back straight, push your hips back into the wall. You should feel that in the back of your thigh. So I'm pushing my hips back and then back up. So back like that. Should feel that tension in the back of your thigh. Try and not bend your knee anymore. Just let that hamstring lengthen and control that movement. Now, if you're tight in your hamstrings, this is a great exercise to help stretch and strengthen them at the same time. You want to go a lightweight with this one as well, and high reps. Especially to start out with, get the position correct where you're keeping your back straight. Heavier weight will come with time. All right, I'm gonna take just a minute, let my heart rate come back down. I used to train a lot in high intensity interval training, where you keep your heart rate just very high, and there's nothing wrong with high intensity interval training. It's really good, effective training. Did that a lot with boxing, a lot with martial arts. But resistance training is very important for maintaining the health in your muscle, to build that muscle mass, especially as we age. Over 35, you start losing muscle on average per year. So it's important to actually keep that muscle active and pulling in nutrients. When we work a muscle, it actually makes it more insulin sensitive, which makes it actually pull in blood sugar and nutrients into that muscle. So that's blood sugar that's not going to your fat, it's going to the muscle. So the more you work a muscle, the better your body is at pulling those sugars into where you want them to be. Not stored in the fat, but stored in that muscle. Now, that doesn't mean that if I work out my legs, I'll lose fat in my legs. You lose a little bit of fat everywhere if you lose fat at all. That's not how, so there's a concept called spot training. Doesn't actually work. It's been shown to not be correct. What you can do though, is the more you work the muscle, the bigger your muscles are, the more likely it is that your body is burning calories using those muscles than there's no extra calories to go to the fat. So that's what you want to do, and that's how you can look leaner by building muscle, is more of those calories are going to building those muscles and maintaining them. I'm trying to keep my chest up as I do this. All right. Now going to hamstrings. So standing one step away from the wall, slight bend in the knees, pushing your hips out to the back, keeping your back flat, and then back up. So I'm hinging from my hips, not from my low back. And I'm pushing my hips to the back. That's gonna help you hinge from just the hips. Keep your back straight. Really pushing those hips to the back. You can think about pointing your butt up at the ceiling behind you. And relax. All right, for our last exercise, we're gonna be working the muscles in the core, specifically that rectus abdominis muscle. It goes from the bottom of your rib cage down to the front of your pelvis. So it's that six-pack muscle right here. Now, like I said, you don't lose muscle or you don't lose fat from working the muscle, but as we build up that muscle, it gets bigger. So as the fat gets smaller from burning calories and eating less, and the muscle gets bigger, then proportionally you can see it more clearly. So this is not a fat burning exercise, but we still do it to strengthen the core and to give more definition for when you can see the muscle. So I'm gonna lay with my back against a ball where I'm rounded over the top of the ball. This really gets the full length of that rectus abdominis muscle. Feet about shoulder width apart or a little bit wider if you need to for balance. One hand over the top of the other. And you're going to try and bring your rib cage to your belly button. So I'm not sitting up from my hips. I am folding up with my rib cage and then all the way back down. So folding up and back. Breathe out as you do it, so you're not compressing the air against your diaphragm. This is the only exercise where we breathe in this pattern, like this, to get the air out of the way. I'm going until I feel tired in my stomach. Try to go straight up between your knees, so not one side or the other. You don't want a 3-pack, you want a 6-pack. So try and keep it balanced between the two. And relax. All right, so that was our workout for today. If you like these workouts and want to see more, I host them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be here